Hello, it's Barry Coombs from Define Tomorrow and ComputerWorld. I'm joined by Steve Blow of Zerto.
Hi guys.
So today I just wanted to catch up with you really. Probably been a few months since we last had a discussion and you presented at our huddle. So from my perspective, I know Zerto as the DR company, and as you've matured, you've kind of gone into what you're referring to as mobility. That's very different to my traditional word of mobility in the user. Can you kind of just give those watching the video a little bit of background as to where Zerto have come from and what you actually specialise in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Zerto entered the marketplace back in 2011 with our first product launch, very much disaster recovery focused, hypervisor-based replication. Products come a long way since then. Actually, the market's changed significantly since then. So we now term ourselves as an IT resilience platform, and that's covering multiple use cases. So obviously disaster recovery is still one of them. We're actually looking at backup as well, but the mobility piece is key. And I guess really this is driven by everyone's focus right now on hybrid cloud, multi-cloud strategies. It's something that a lot of businesses are adopting today. But what they're doing is they're adopting based on their day one requirements. You know, workloads are placed where they think they fit best today. But then actually not having necessarily the capability to easily move those around. And it means you can't get the best out of that strategy. You don't get the efficiency that you might otherwise get. And Zerto's a real enabler in ensuring that you do have that flexibility. You know, we support VMware, Hyper-V, AWS and Azure, and we allow complete mobility in just minutes between all of those platforms.
I think that's really important. I think, as you say, when people consider the cloud, it's almost due to an immediate requirement, something that they want to be able to do, and disaster recovery often gets forgotten about. It's kind of, well, doesn't the cloud kind of sprinkle magic pixie dust over my needs to think about things like that, which of course it doesn't. And the other point that you guys make around vendor lock-in, I think that's a very important one, that if we are investing in one of these cloud vendors, how do we ensure that we're not locked into that moving forward? Yeah,
and I think that's the key thing. People want consistency and convergence, and that's what we're really doing. It's one platform. It's still, you know, that single installation. It's not modular like a lot of other solutions out there. It's one platform that provides all of those capabilities. And that really does benefit customers, particularly, as I said, if they're them deploying on different solutions, being able to have the same product providing the same capabilities across all of them, you know, whether that is disaster recovery, mobility or backup, is really powerful for ultimately allowing them to maximize their IT teams to focus on innovation for the business itself, rather than managing day-to-day tasks like disaster recovery and backup.
Definitely. So at the show, you guys are starting to talk about version 7 of your product, this is where it's really kind of moving into that backup side of things.
Absolutely.
So can you kind of, first of all, for those that don't know, what makes Zerto different in the term of the way that you are able to handle backup? A lot of vendors, it's kind of snapshot-based, it's point in time, once a day. You guys approach this from a very different angle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think if we look at backup today, largely where people are backing up, they do it daily, maybe a little bit more frequent than that, but largely it's daily. And the biggest reason for that is that it's impacting on production when they're performing those backups, because it's snapshots or whatever other mechanism they're utilizing. And that then impacts on the granularity that you can achieve, which means then you need a separate disaster recovery product, etc. What Zerto does differently is that we're non-impacting on your production environment. And therefore, because we're non-impacting, we allow you to effectively provide greater granularity. And actually, we do continuous data protection. So rather than it being scheduled and you having schedules to manage, we're continuously replicating and ultimately storing all of those changes in a journal, where we're then inserting checkpoints every 5 seconds, and those are points in time you can recover to. So if you think about a traditional solution, you know, maybe you're doing a metro cluster, great for physical failure. But if you have a logical failure, you're going back to your backup and potentially losing up to 24 hours worth of data. With Zerto, it doesn't matter whether it's a physical or virtual or logical fault, you're actually able to recover to just seconds before the issue occurred. And that's really powerful.
And I think the types of attacks that we're trying to protect against are changing. If people think traditionally about DR, it was always about the plane flying into the building or a fire or a flood or something like that. The biggest challenge that I'm seeing at the moment is ransomware, and that is very different to any of those types of challenge. How specifically are you guys kind of helping your customers protect against ransomware?
Yes, again, you know, we're in the times now where businesses are more and more 24/7. People want everything now. They don't want, obviously, the data loss. You know, as soon as you have that data loss or big impact, you're in the news, media coverage, and it's not always positive. Zerto is really about minimizing that data loss. Obviously, as I said, we can recover to seconds before. And we can do that for files, we can do that for folders, for entire applications, for virtual machines, for entire sites, to just seconds before. So for example, if ransomware encrypts your files on a file server, you can actually go back and roll back to seconds before that issue occurred. I think when you then tie that into our analytics platform, we have the ability to show you things like IOPS. If you see a big spike in IOPS on some of your workloads, Zerto actually today can provide some additional capabilities whereby we can actually take backups to the past. So right now, if you've seen that spike on I/O, it's probably too late for you to do anything with your traditional solutions. With Zerto, we actually have a journaling capability, so we've got the historical data there. What we're adding in Zerto 7 and expanding on is actually long-term retention. So you can actually then be able to take points in time from any point in the journal and then ultimately recover them or store them for long-term retention in a repository of your choice in the target side. Initially we're supporting NFS on there, but that's really a game changer because we're again doing that on the target side rather than having an impact on production, and that's something that a lot of customers and businesses are struggling with and have been traditionally since backup's been required.
Definitely. So it's definitely this IT resiliency platform that you guys talk about is really kind of coming together. Absolutely. You're not just a DR vendor, you can do backup. You're able to be this mobility person that can remove the lock-in from the cloud vendors, that can provide DR in the cloud. So it sounds a great time to be part of Zerto, really kind of exciting journey that you're taking your customers on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got things like index and search coming in Zerto 7 next year, early next year. That's going to add some additional capability that you would expect from a backup product. I guess the key thing with Zerto is it doesn't matter what you buy Zerto for, all three use cases are part of the product, part of the installation, you only configure it one way. And so typically most customers where they are utilising Zerto will utilise Zerto for at least two of those use cases, if not more. And that's really beneficial to them to ultimately reduce, like I said, the resource overhead in managing these solutions that traditionally have been very complex.
Well, thank you ever so much, Steve. It's been really good learning more about Zerto and where you guys are going. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers, Barry.